Hello, and welcome to Just Another Real Estate Podcast, where we'll speak with Arizona's most successful real estate professionals to better understand their business, current market conditions, team and business building strategies, successes, and challenges. This podcast is brought to you by Dwell Inspect Arizona with your host, Sean Garvey.
Welcome to Just Another Real Estate Podcast. Today's guest is Sacha Blanchet with Sacha Blanchet Fine Homes. Good friend of ours for a long period of time. We've known him for a number of years, and we're honored to get to work with him throughout the years and call him a friend as well. So welcome, Sacha. Thanks for spending your time with us this morning or this afternoon.
Thank you.
Today.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you having me on your pod, and it's always a pleasure to work with you and your staff, and you guys are always so professional all the time, and definitely you've been a great help, and your company is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, in reality, we're just trying to keep up with you. You also have an amazing team. You have a lean team that just produces amazing things. And I'm not saying that to inflate your ego, but the amount of houses that you sell in a year, you have a flipping business that you manage to, or remodeling, I should say, and then you have a robust short-term rental business. And then you all like to throw in things like remodeling or rebuilding your own home and global adventures as well. So I don't know how you do it, but you're setting the pace, and we're just trying to keep up.
Right.
So everyone, where are you from originally? And then, how did you end up in Phoenix?
Good question. I originally from Quebec City, Canada. Went to school in Montreal, and I was a professional ice skater at the time. I was competing for Canada for many, many years.
Like the country representing the country of Canada.
Canada, correct.
Big deal.
And things were, in the late 90s, things were a little bit harder. I was a pair skater. And then me and my skating partners, there were a little bit of difference in weight, and we had some issues there, and one of the top competitor at the time started training with us, and you could see that they were the next Olympic champions. So then I got an opportunity to go ice skate on cruise ships. They were building new ships in the Caribbean, and I got the inside from another skater saying that they were building that, and they were building an ice rink on the ship. And so I sent a videotape at the time in the late 90s and got the job. So I ended up, I was contracted with Royal Caribbean to ice skate on the first cruise ships ever that were built in Europe. So I ended up doing that for 5 years, and had a great time. And but after 5 years, I kind of, I had enough of that, So I was like, skating is good, and working on a cruise ship, life is so easy, but it's not gonna set me for life,
Right.
So it's still working for a paycheck all the time. And so that's when I really kind of started to. I got my green card at that time. After a few years, and then eventually I got my citizenship as well. And I came to Arizona for a real estate seminar. I was doing a lot of study about how to invest in real estate, and also to find ways to get some passive income. So I was kind of after passive income, the more than just regular income. So passive income, I wanted something that would create that I would work only once and get paid over and over, and found real estate would be a good asset to do that. So came to Phoenix and went to some seminar, and I love the weather. Of course, our weather is so amazing. So I ended up doing that then I completely moved to Arizona, started my real estate business at that time.
So your first introduction into the U.S. was directly into Phoenix or Arizona?
Yeah, the ships were based in the Caribbean and into Miami. So I did do a little bit of investment over there in Miami at that time. Once a week I was back in Miami, so I started doing that. But I really kind of, during that time that I was on the ship, really kind of got into reading books and going to seminars about real estate investment. I thought the investment side of it was the most important part, and that's how I got started. I learned how to find contractors, how to different strategies to do lease options or learn about the rental business. So all of those, I got started with that in 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
So
Well, I want to ask you a little bit about that, but I just have two questions. Poor English right
sure.
there. um, did you live on a boat for 5 years? Like you legitimately Monday through Sunday, you were on the boat. That was your home.
I lived in this little tiny little cabin, and with bunk beds, and I was doing 6 months on the ship. Then I had like a month or two off, and I was going back to the ship, a different ship. So it was an easy life at the time because I was in my 20s. I
Yeah.
was able to just only had to work like a few nights a week, and so we had 4 shows a week on 2 nights, and the rest of the time I was free to do whatever I wanted to do. So just go drink on the island and party and meet some other guests on the ship. So that was kind of the different
How
kind of
fun.
life that I have now, where I'm working out here all the time. So
Yeah, it sounded like a lot of downtime, and maybe it sounds like you took opportunity of that to pick up a book while you were doing that, and you saw into the future for the next step.
that's
That's pretty
right.
cool.
Yeah. And
Um,
even after the ship, I did do some small shows in theme parks in Ohio, and during that time, I had a lot of time off in between shows, and I was just all I was doing is getting into like studying and getting into these conferences online, and that's how I got started. So
and you also forgot, maybe you didn't forget, but I was going to say it anyways. But you were also on television with your skating too, right? You did Skating with the Stars up in Canada. Was that
I
fall into
did
that
actually
timeline
was
too?
it was Skating with the Stars in Rome, and I did it
Oh,
in
Rome.
Belgium, and I did it in Holland. So that was one of those where I was matched with a famous actress there, and every week we were competing like the show, and that was really amazing. I did that in 2007.
Okay.
So I took a break of my real estate year and went there for a few months and had fun there. So
What an incredible opportunity that skating opened up for you. I mean, obviously, it sounded like a passion, but it also allowed you to live this incredible lifestyle where you get to travel the world and do what I assume you loved, right? If you were at that level, you had to love it at some level.
right, oh, that was great, and I also ice skating that's allowed me to come and live in the U.S.
Sure.
Legally, obviously, because I wouldn't never be able to be here without skating. I was able to get my green card much easier than any other process out there just because of my skating career that I had.
Wow.
So,
That's incredible. All right, so back to one thing I put a note down and it said you had the clairvoyance to start going to seminars. Where did you find a seminar, and like is it a big name like a like a Tony Robbins where there's 5,000 people, or was it just a guy with a flyer on a telephone pole and you're like, I'm gonna go check this out?
yeah, we got involved into with Robert Allen.
Okay,
That was kind of a lot of that, and then from those seminars, then I met some other gurus, I would say, about real estate. Some are famous about no money down type of real estate seminars, and those really works. You just gotta take the time after you go to those seminars to apply what you learn,
sure,
and that's how I got started. I remember buying properties with none of my own money in 2005. Another property, I did a wholesale deal where I bought the property, I put it on the contract, and I sold it to another investor right
yeah.
before closing. So I've done a few of those as well. So I'd say I was a hustler, and I was hustling to make it happen. Didn't have much money, and I just found solutions and put those studies into action. So
So you got into it with the intent of developing a long-term investment portfolio where you're making money in it, or you're not getting into it with the intent of generating a residential real estate or luxury real estate business, right? Is that accurate?
Originally, my goal was to just build passive income,
Okay.
to find different strategies to build that passive income, so it would cover all my expenses, and I wouldn't have eventually having to work a daily job where all the income comes in from the rentals that I have.
Okay.
So
That's
then,
interesting.
that's a little bit later on that I found uh, the best asset for me for building passive income was through short-term
Short term.
rentals.
Yeah.
So an Airbnb and VRBO, and that's where I really got started in 2010, where I really kind of discovered that this could be really big. 2010 Airbnb was just starting,
Right.
and bought my first little condo, at 15th Avenue in Camelback for 30,000, and turned that into decided, oh, I'm going to furnish it and see how it works, and put it on VRBO. Then one of my friends told me about Airbnb, and then put it on Airbnb, and it was always booked. And I was calculating at the end of the year, I was making, 20 or $30,000 net on a $30,000 investment. So I was like, well, that's a good return,
Yeah, that's good
30,000,
math.
that's 100% return on my money. So then I started, I bought a few more and I sold some and did some 1031 exchanges on a few of those. And now I find myself with 20 properties that actually take care that I own by myself, and some partners as well that I teamed up with. And we just take care of all those properties and keep renting them out on VRBO and Airbnb.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've watched it develop over the years, just from the periphery, and you look like you've developed this incredible system and you've become an expert in it, and we've even inspected some houses for your clients, past clients that are looking to get into the business. So not only are you helping them buy a house, but you're also helping them start their own business, which is pretty
Right.
cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. A few years ago, I kind of wanted to help out, and so many of my friends, close friends and clients, were coming to me and seeing the type of return that I was making with my investments, and I was able to help them out and bring them into our group. Now we have a small group that we host,
Right.
60 properties in the valley, and we take care of everything. We handle the bookings and the cleaning schedules, and we have a very, very good system down that we have lock closets in every home
Hmm.
for the cleaning crew. So it's all systemized. And now, it's all app based, so we don't touch
Right.
any of the money. So it's so much easier than what it used to be when I started. When I started, we had to do a lease agreement for everything, and we had to make sure we get the money in the mail. And now it's all app based, and the money gets deposited in everybody's accounts at the end of the stay. So it's great for that.
Yeah, I mean, tell me about. I mean, that's true. 2010's like the very, very beginning of it. You saw this opportunity. Um, I mean, VRBO had been around probably for a couple of years, and
Right.
Airbnb comes on, and those are two of the largest hotel companies. They don't own any hotels, but you don't they don't own any hotel rooms, but you had the vision to see that as an early opportunity. Phoenix is just coming out of probably the bottom around 2008 or so, the
Hmm.
bottom of the residential real estate crash. Um, and you got a house for 30 grand. That's pretty
Right.
incredible. Or a condo for 30 grand. That's
Right.
that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But then you just said, "Hey, I'm going to try something different." And look what it's turned into. That's pretty incredible. But
Right. Yeah.
what was it like back then? And then I mean people just take it for granted now.
Well, it was kind of unknown, and nobody would, everybody was having their focus on, yeah, some people had VRBO properties,
Mhm.
but they were all in Scottsdale, and, it was just the beginning of it. And nobody thought that, at 15th Avenue in Camelback, you would have VRBO and Airbnb that would work. And obviously, I tried it, and that's how I really discovered that it was very successful. The property was always booked. I had no problem, and my properties were staying in better shape than long-term rentals as well. So I realized, and I was able
Huh.
also to put clients in as well when they were coming in town. At that time, I had tons of buyers from Canada that were coming down to buy property, investment properties or second home, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to block my calendar. You can stay in my VRBO property. It's all furnished, all ready for you. So, that was just a good way to to get some income at the beginning, and then after it start with one, then that's where I always say to my clients, you should always kind of focus on buying at least one investment property per year,
Yeah.
even if it's difficult and risky at first. You're not sure, is it going to rent? Is it? You take the risk and you find the money all the time, and it works out.
Yeah.
So. Even for $30,000, it was a big investment for me to get started. Um, at that time, and the real estate market at that time was kind of risky.
For
People were
sure.
like, oh well, something might happen, the United States might become bankrupt, and that was kind of all the what was going on in 2010 and 2011. But I took the risk, and it all worked out. And after that, and it's the same right now. It's people are a little bit reluctant about buying real estate in this time of the year, but it's a great time. I would prefer buying now than 6 months ago.
6 months ago.
Now I can actually negotiate. I have, a lot more power as a buyer. So, but man, I continue to buy real estate even in bad time, rough time, good times. I think you want to keep it consistent like anything else. I think
Yeah.
consistency is key in real estate investment.
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting perspective. And one thought that just kind of, you said it was a risk at the 30 grand, and it's probably, a lot of money, but I just thought with your work ethic to get to the level of skating and what I've seen in your real estate business, it doesn't seem like much of a risk. It seems like you would have done anything to make it work.
Right.
To rise to that level, and then once you recognize the one, it just an application of adding more and more.
Right,
Um,
but when you see in your bank account that you have like $1,000 left, or
yeah,
that's like, okay, how am I gonna furnish this property? How am I gonna find the money to to do that? So on another side, it just made me like work harder
sure.
to make it happen. So I was like hustling even more out there to sell properties at that time. That I was also a real estate agent at that time, and that made me work. And I met also I have some real estate partners that invested with me at that time. And then we started buying 50-50 some properties. And there was some times where I was like, I didn't have the money, I didn't have that type of cash to go in. But I were able to kind of do the deals together, and then borrowing money from him. And then that's how I got started.
So
So.
you got creative to find it, and found you brought in. Sounds like you brought in some good partners too.
Oh yeah, very
Yeah,
good, and I'm glad that I had them at the time, because and it was a win-win. I was actually very good at finding the good properties to invest in,
yeah,
we did some flips like that, especially in 2011, 12, 13. There was a lot of bank-owned properties, and it was an amazing time to pick up properties for 75, 80, and put another 50 and resell for 200. We're doing a lot of that,
yeah.
and but I didn't have to use my own money at that time. We're just
It's great.
teaming up together, and make a little bit of money like that. So.
That's incredible. And in the past too, you mentioned something about having the knack for finding the good properties. I think when a lot of people are looking, and we've seen in the past, a lot of people are looking for short-term rentals. They're looking in like the Old Town Scottsdale area, or maybe the Northeast Scottsdale area, like the DC Ranch, like areas that are very, very popular. You've told me that the best properties that you found are not in those areas. Some are in the worst neighborhoods of the city.
Right. No, I think you've got to think outside the box, Sean.
Yeah,
I think most people, when they think about short-term rentals, they only think about Old Scottsdale and
yeah,
all that. But those areas are very saturated right now, and not a good time to buy in those areas. So you want to think about where do you think that there's not many short-term rentals, and there's still families out there. They have friends coming over to visit them, so they need a short-term rental,
of course.
or getaway. People want to rent the place for a week. and they want to get away and they want to have their own pool. So they book the place, even if it's in East Mesa or Avondale. Or, last year I had some great income in my property in Avondale, surprisingly. So people would never expect that there's a market for that. But it really kind of you decide where it would be a good fit for you and where you can find a good opportunity to buy as well.
Huh.
So
That's really good advice. I mean, I like that. You're seeing opportunity where others aren't, and they're just going in the direction that seems to be the best opportunity. But you're
right,
not necessarily overpaying for the houses in Avondale or North Phoenix or East Mesa, and but people need them. There's
right,
less
and
density.
yeah, and also it's the matter is that it's not always you have to think about all year round. You don't want to think only about the Super Bowl or the spring training. You got to think about, yeah, you got to rent it in the month of June, July, August. So people are coming from California. They don't really need to stay in Scottsdale all the time. They're fine. And my goal always is to get a very high occupancy rate, not necessarily having the highest rate, but I want to stay at least at 90% occupancy rate on those property. I don't want to see a gap of 5 days next week on my calendar on one of my property. I like to
Right.
see them completely booked. So you gotta adjust the rates, and even if you have to adjust the rate to $150 a night or $200 a night for a property that you bought for 400,000, it's not a big deal. So, but if you paid something for over $1 million in
Right.
Old Scottsdale, then it's gonna be very hard to rent during those slow months,
The hot months.
and you're not gonna get pretty much nothing. So,
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, that's good advice. I would say, well, let me ask you, without giving away too many of your secrets, what are some tips for somebody? Well, first tip I would say is to call you and ask
right.
you to ask them to help you, ask for them to ask you how to find a house. But what are some features that you look for when you're going to make an acquisition for you personally or one of your clients directly?
I usually look and see at the community to make sure that you're not too close to your neighbors.
Mm,
Looking for privacy as well. You want to also make sure that depending on how much money you're going to have to put in to fix it up or remodel. So that's a big consideration. So a lot of the time, I don't want to spend a whole lot of money out of my pocket to do a full remodel and the
right.
time as well.
Right.
I also like houses with swimming pool.
Yep.
So I think a swimming pool is more costs involved, but you'll get more money definitely during the summer months and even the winter months compared with a house that doesn't have a pool. Also, I look at the HOA. So if you're looking into an area where there are HOAs, you want to make sure before you put an offer, you want to look at the CCNRs and make sure that there's no rental restrictions in the property. Some of those HOAs will have a 30-day minimum or a 3 months minimum rental. So in those cases, then you got to be very careful because you don't want to buy where it's a 1 year minimum,
Right.
because then you're going to be shut down in no time by the HOA. So also you want to look into with the cities as well in the state. Of course, if you're buying in the state of Arizona, you're fine right now, but there are some cities in like for example Phoenix or Scottsdale. All of those have restrictions. Uh, they're allowing short-term rentals, but you need to get a license from the city
Oh,
to
really?
do that. So there are some requirements that you need to have, and you have to follow on those. So I think the cities, and also you want to make sure before you start investing in real estate with short-term rentals, you want to talk to your CPA. Number one, you want to make sure you're all set up properly to receive some income.
Hmm.
And you also want to go ahead and talk to an attorney as well to make sure that you're all well protected in case of lawsuits against the properties. So especially in
Right.
terms of liability. Also, you want to make sure you have the right insurance. So, a regular landlord policy or regular long-term rental policy will not do for a short-term rental. So you need to make sure that you have the proper insurance to cover in case of something would happen on your property. So I've seen some cases where you get sued because someone fell into the house, or so you want to have enough liability insurance. And a number of policy is a good option to have as well. So you want to at least keep a $2 or $3 million umbrella policy on top
Wow.
of your regular policy as well. So
Wow.
I'd say you have to talk to an insurance agent that knows the area of short-term rentals. So that's very important.
And so I mean, that's a wealth of tips and advice and experience that you just shared. Thank you. So let's say you're buying a property and you have enough experience, so you probably know you're buying, you're putting the wheels into motion as you sign the contract for purchase. But from acquisition to launch on one of these websites, how long does it take you to get a house ready?
I'd say anywhere between 30 to 60 days, usually. So, depending what needs to be done. Usually, I have a team right now, so it's a little bit faster. But we go in,
Wow.
we have our interior decorator that works for me full time. She goes in, she kind of choose the colors. I used to do all of this, but I got tired of doing all. So now she's much better than me, and she goes out and it's done quickly. And I oversee the painting after, when I hire the painter, get the estimates for my clients or for me,
Sure.
then do whatever we need to do. We always have to have the same type of lock closets, the same type of locks that we put in. We
Mhm.
change the front door lock to be an electronic lock that also is automated with Airbnb and VRBO.
Right.
Then we go in and make sure that the pool is safe. We do all the signage outside and
Right.
the buoy and all of those details. And after that, then we have someone that handle all the purchases for the kitchen. So, all the little details. I have someone that goes in and buy everything and wash everything, bring everything in. Then I have another team that does all the linen and all the backup linen for everything. So, when you get to a system where we always buy the same type of linen, the same
Right.
type of pillows,
You know what to do.
and then we get it done. And then we go through a punch list of all the repairs that needs to be done in the home, making sure that everything is very safe for our guests, and making sure there's a CO2 detector in the home, and make sure each bedroom has each bedroom has a fire alarm as well, a smoke detector, a fire extinguisher under the kitchen sink and in the garage. All of those are very important to have. And of course, we usually always put a pool heater on the house as well.
Yep.
So,
I mean, you just rattled off a ton of things to do, and with when you hire you to manage it, it sounds like it's just systematized and dialed in, and you probably have a reasonable idea of what everything costs too to do it. I mean, that's
yeah,
incredible.
now it's with the cost of the furniture for let's say for
Yeah,
a normal like 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom house, two bath, like 2,000 square feet, it's going to be anywhere between 40 to 50, usually including the paint and all the setup. And usually we average that because every home will need to do some type of
a little
updating.
something. Yeah.
Sometimes they have has older cabinets, we repaint them, change the counters. We want to make sure it looks really good and updated as well. So
So I mean, that's anybody who's listening. That's a very reasonable expectation to not that most people don't think about when they're getting into this business. They think they're going to buy a house, maybe find some furniture, stick it all together, throw it up on Airbnb, and it's gonna be booked like that. But you really have to polish it up to make it more attractive.
oh, for sure. Especially
Yeah,
now, we had an increase of 50% more Airbnb listings in 1 year in the Phoenix area.
50.
50% more.
Holy cow!
So it's very saturated right now. So you've got to make sure that your property looks better than anybody else around. So you
Yeah,
want to have the best photography, you want to have the best reviews, and you want to have something that will attract the people, depending, what team you go with. If it's a mid-century modern or
right.
you go into a farmhouse style, you want to make sure that it looks really, really good. And you don't want to be like too niche directed as well. I've learned that because I did once. I did a 50 Shades of Grey. So, that was kind of fun, It was fun, but at the beginning, it took a long time to take off. I was not getting in very much bookings and realizing that, well, the golfers didn't want to book that because of the style. And, so I kind of rebranded it and it works out now. But, you want to have a big net. You don't want to have a small net. So and that's where I learned, find some style that most people like, and it's gonna get booked, And I think the worst thing you can do is go in and just use what you have in your garage. That
Right.
that's not a good idea because it's gonna look like you bought everything in a yard sale, and it's just you want to make sure that it looks like really good without spending a fortune in furniture.
Cohesive.
You want to also think about reliability. You want to make sure that it's going to stay and be solid for a long time as well. People are rough in those properties, So I say, I've learned never put like wooden chairs into the dining room because they're going to get broken after a few months. So
Oh
you
yeah, that makes
always want to
sense.
make sure you have metal legs, chairs. Same with the beds, you want to make sure that you put solid and comfortable bed without spending a huge amount of money. But after a while, you kind of get to know where to buy everything to
Right.
save some money, but you want to buy quality that will last as well. So
That's really thoughtful, and it doesn't sound like you're. I mean, I we were at a we were at a party last week, and I guess the neighbors to that house are Airbnb, and I looked over the fence, and it was like every fraternity or bachelor party like dream. I mean, there was beer pong tables and driving
uh,
ranges and tailgate toss and ladder golf and beach volleyball and pool and bars there and what have you. I mean, it was like a giant party waiting to happen. It doesn't sound like you're renting to that type of to
yeah,
the
no, we're very, very careful. We don't want
yeah
party, and
yeah
we put it very clearly on each. So our home's going to be more basic in terms of games, and because we don't want to attract that crowd.
right yeah
But yeah, just as soon as we hear anything about parties, or we get the requests sometimes, but we decline those requests because we don't want to deal with that. And now Airbnb has been very strict in the last 4 months. And if your house has a party, then they actually they put that particular listing in jail. I call it
oh
like
wow
the Airbnb jail. And one of our property in Mesa, actually, that's what happened. One of the neighbor called Airbnb, and they said there was a party going on in the house, and we had no clue. And so we called the guests right away, and they stopped all the noise right away. But we still got in jail for 30 days. We couldn't even rent the property for 30 days, and it wasn't our fault. We're the hosts. We're very
right
clear that we don't allow any party, but the guests got away with that with no consequences for them, and we're the one that kind of paid for it. 30 days is hard because imagine you're in the month or your
yeah
biggest month of the year in February or March, and all of a sudden you have to close off your Airbnb and you can't take any more bookings. That really hurts,
that's pretty wild.
so Airbnb does not allow any parties. So I think they're getting better at stopping those and changing the reputation as well that Airbnb has with
They're not going to
neighbors.
yeah
So
yeah that's great. I mean, that's great on
um,
their
yeah.
aspect. Clearly, you have a wealth of knowledge in that, and I appreciate you sharing it. But we also should address. I mean, you have a fantastic residential real estate business that you manage too. And like I said, you're pretty lean through your environment. It's you with your assistant John, um, and you guys sell an incredible amount of houses.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
we stay busy. We like serving our clients, and
yeah,
I think one thing that I do very well, there's millions of real estate agents, but
sure.
something that do better than I'd say anyone in the valley is that I'm really good at putting together a team, a crew to work on the property before the property is being listed for sale.
Hmm.
So since I have all the trades, I have the drywaller, the painter, the appliance, all of those people at a very reasonable price. I do very well when I take a property that either hasn't sold or a property that needs a lot of work before, and I get invited. I love those challenges because I go in and in 30 to 60 days, the house looks amazing. We
Yeah.
do great photography and staging, and we take time to stage even the dining table when we take our photos. So that's one piece that I do very well, and my team differentiate with the other real estate agents. The rest, everybody's is got something better than me, or so. But what I do very well is that, and even right now we just listed a property in the Phoenix Country Club, and the property needed a lot of work 2 months ago, and we turned it in 2 months. Oversaw the tree trimming and the winter grass and oversaw the concrete. We had to kind of resand all those concrete. They had a circular driveway, oversee all the painting, new countertops, and I oversaw all the work for two
Wow.
months. Every morning, I was driving to the property at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, meeting the trades, the subs, and to do all the work, and we got it all done. And the transformation was amazing. From a house that needed a lot of work to a beautiful property now.
I
So.
love it. And on a side note, I love the Phoenix Country Club and the history of the houses in there. So I think that's magical that you brought something back to life in there.
Hmm.
It's so cool. There's so much history that you just don't think about, being a Phoenician or at least being native or having been around a while. But we did one in there a long time ago, and it was Barry Goldwater's brother's house, and Barry Goldwater lived across the street, and they talked about, I don't know, Johnny Carson and Ed Sullivan, all these people coming to the Phoenix Open, and they would stay in these houses around there. And my mind was just kind of blown with the history of and the pull that Phoenix had back then for the Phoenix
Right.
Country Club had back then. So that's cool.
It's a great neighborhood with especially it's so green and very
Yeah,
mature trees. And the listing that I have on Country Club, it's 85 North Country Club. If you have an opportunity to look it up online,
yeah.
it's a 1929 property. Amazing architecture, and the views are just. There's even views of Camelback Mountain from the house.
Wow.
So yeah, very nice listing.
One thing you just mentioned in that is that you put time and investment back into the house prior to listing. Were you doing that even during the frenzy of home sales? You know, the 6 months ago, were you still putting the best foot forward on a house when you were putting it on the market?
I was, yeah. I've seen all kind of markets. I
Yeah.
started with the short sale time in back in 2007, and my process has not really changed. The only thing I'm more efficient now,
Mm,
and even when it's a very good seller's market, I still like to, because it's my brand. I want to make sure that when I'm taking pictures, that the property look amazing, and to the full potential in the house. And I think that was the difference between listing a property and getting, let's say, 2 million bucks. But if I put a little bit more energy to make it look beautiful, then my clients can get 2.5 million.
that's a
So
big
that's
difference.
kind of like the difference. And in the lower price range, sometimes it could make 50 to $100,000 difference. If you really kind of put a little bit of energy and very little amount of money in, like just repainting the walls and having some nice, beautiful, fresh flowers, and put some geraniums into the pots outside.
Hmm.
All of those make a huge difference when you walk in. I have a friend of mine. She told me, "Say, yeah, you give me $1,000 to put all new geraniums outside, and you're probably gonna get an extra $10 to $15,000 on the sale
Wow.
of your home." So it's just so welcoming for the potential buyers.
I mean, that's just something I haven't heard. You know, people took it for so granted for for about a year and a half after the COVID, collapsed, as you know, for about 3 weeks, and then the real estate market went bananas.
Right.
And that's no secret, but you still took the time and kept with your process instead of just sticking a sign in the front yard and opening the door and 40 people would come through. You stuck a sign in the yard, still did your improvements, and that same 40 or 50 people came through, but they reached deeper into their pockets to buy the house.
Correct. Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, because the principle never doesn't change. People will be put. Even if there's 15 buyers potential, well, obviously I might be able to get 20 potential buyers and more eyes on the properties as well. The
Right.
more eyes you have, the more potential buyers are fighting for the same property, the higher the price going to be. So,
Yeah, your principles didn't change because I think a
right,
lot of people's principles did. And I'm not degrading anybody. It's just I think it's interesting that you stayed the course.
right,
Because it would have been easy not to do it.
right. Well, people get lazy. So,
Tell me your thoughts about staging too, because I think that's interesting. I've read the data, right? If you stage a home, it sells faster and for more money. But is that in actuality? I mean, are you using Airbnb furniture to stage a house and moving it around and hold it, or
I
um,
used to have my warehouse, and my garage was a mess, to all this this crazy amount of furniture and move things around, and I kind of got out of that, and now I have a person that just handled that for me. She's my full-time decorator. She's
uh-huh.
really great, and she actually has access to unlimited amount of furniture at a small cost.
Oh
So
wow,
we
that's
just
great.
rent the furniture, and it's so much easier for my life. I don't have to oversee all of that part. So she handles all of that. And it's a little bit more expensive, but at least you don't own the furniture, and furniture always depreciate. So
Yeah.
I'd rather have someone else get the depreciation of the furniture, so than me. So, but yeah, no, it's easy and it's faster. I just text her the address and we meet at the property. We oversee what we need to do. And then she brings a few days later, the truck arrives with all the furniture. And then I finish all the final touches with her as well, like the dining table and the
Hmm.
kitchen design. Then after that, we just do our photo shoot at night and it looks beautiful.
Wow,
So
that's incredible. And that's from the
yeah, one
listing
thing
side.
about
Oh,
photography, I
good.
love doing the twilight photography. I think when there's a twilight and just at sunset, the colors inside a home really gets to amazing. It's so much better than daylight. There's just it's a lot deeper the colors, and so most of all my luxury listing, it's all twilight photography that I do. And we add a lot of candles, and it looks very warm and inviting as well.
Huh. People who are listening can't see that, but you're saying this all with a smile. I mean, you can
Right?
tell you're really passionate about the presentation of a home and the high
Oh, it
attention
is
to detail for sure.
so important.
And that's from the listing side, but you also you service a lot of buyers too. And I don't know where you find the time, but one thing I heard is that you have a lot of solutions for any problems, and Um, I've seen that firsthand when we go through an inspection and maybe some things aren't so in such great condition, but you're always saying, well, that's not a big deal, or I've got a guy for that. And you pretty
Right.
much know what it's going to cost and how to tackle those problems on the imperfect house.
Right. Well, it's never a perfect house, like you
No.
always say at the beginning of an inspection. But I see a lot of people that are kind of dramatizing sometimes on when they hear something. Oh, there's a little thing missing there.
Yeah.
That everything is fixable. So
Right.
and it takes times. And what I really like is that I have two full-time handyman that works for me only. So
Yeah.
so when I have like a repair or clients call me and oh we're having an issue with this, then I just send my handyman there and he fixes it and that's over. So and especially during Binzer as well,
Hmm.
negotiation. When I work with buyer, I want to make sure that we only ask for what's more important. Like the roof and all of those could be very expensive, or air conditioner. But the rest of the thing, I usually send my handyman there after we close, and that's a gift from my clients. And I say, well, here's, you got 2 days that we can have a handyman. We can get a lot of things done during 2 days. And that makes a huge difference for my client
Wow.
as well. So even sometimes they're there to hang picture frames for them or helping them out. So and that's one of the value that I do for a lot of my clients. So,
Wow, that's an incredible closing it. You can get them to hang
so
TVs and do that, or
yeah,
you can fix
whatever they
fix what they
need,
need.
and and sometimes it's just all those little details on the binzer. It's just not worth it to ask the seller to fix that. And I just say, well, we'll put together a list, and as soon as we close, the handyman that works for me is gonna go and take care of all those details. So
I mean, that's so reassuring during such a pivotal point of how am I going to address this? How much does this cost? From the buyer's perspective, where it's high tension, you say, I got a solution for that. Not a big deal. We're going to
right,
handle it
correct,
together.
and having handyman that works for me, I wouldn't even be able to be in the business now, not having those two gentlemen, because they're just helping me so much. One of them has been working for me for 12 years, full time, and it's just there's always something broken, of course, in the rental
Sure.
business. uh, we have spreadsheets of repairs everywhere, and I just move them from one house to the other one. And when I have projects as well, remodel projects, then they work also on the projects. And when we have new Airbnb to set up, then they work on that. And sometimes we're very busy with new listings as well. So before putting on the market, then I will go through with my clients and say, well, what doesn't work in the house? And I put a list of different things.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we have Sean come back. You come back
Yeah.
and do a pre-inspection.
Yeah.
So all of those, we can address a lot of those details as well before we go live on the market.
So it just kind of dawned on me while you're saying that, like having such a versatile business with the residential real estate, the remodeling, or preparing houses for listing, and then your short-term rental has allowed you to really hire some and retain some key employees that you can use in all three of the businesses, which traditional residential real estate business might not have those resources, right? You don't have
Right,
a handyman where you could say, "Hey, be there on Tuesday." They may have to make a couple calls. I think that's an enormous advantage that you have and you've created, I
right.
should say.
It made a big difference, especially when we go through times like the last few years where everybody was super busy. All the trades were super busy, doing big projects and remodeling and all of that. To have two full-time handyman has just made my life so much easier. And I wouldn't be where I am right now without those two gentlemen. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, even in the last 2 years where people were buying houses and they were getting inspection reports, and some of them had a lot of stuff on it, and they said, you know, "The seller's not gonna fix anything.
Right.
We have to take this all on," and you have that ability to solve that problem.
Right, and it's not easy out there to find people for one little job,
Yeah,
So try to find someone to change smoke detectors into a home, and it's it's not easy. So
doesn't
it's
happen
just
right
too
now.
small of a job. So and they're like, no, we're busy remodeling a full house, and we're busy building new houses. So
And how many houses might you help sell a year on a traditional year at this point?
I think the average usually I do anywhere total with between I do maybe like 40 to 40 to 50 listings per year, and I do about 30 to 50 as well, like buyers as well per year. So it's about like anywhere between 75 to 100 homes per year. That's usually my average.
See, that's
So
what I'm talking about, just trying to keep up with you. Like, you have so many different facets of the business where
yeah, the majority of my business is all past clients or
yeah,
referrals from them. So it's all we do a lot of uh, events together. We have fun, and we get together, and they're all my friends. So, And a lot of my time is spent while I get texts or calls from them. Say, hey, can you help me? I need someone to change my air conditioner. Who do you recommend?
Yeah,
And then I put them in touch with the people that I've worked with and the people that I trust. So that's kind of a lot of my time right now is spent on that, just referring or coordinating the handyman as well to help the people as well. So
that's
it's all about
incredible.
helping others. The more you help others, and I think the more comes back to you eventually.
That's
So
gold.
that's how I've seen this business the last few years.
That's really incredible. You've built an amazing business in about a little bit over a decade, and it's very
Sure.
impressed, and we're honored, certainly honored to be part of it, to assist you on that as well. I have to ask you, what are some things that you like about home inspections, from your perspective as a real estate agent?
Well, I think I like it because it's you learn a lot. It's very
Huh?
educative. Every time I go with my buyers to a home inspection with you guys, I always learn something new. And that's great because for my clients, usually it's their first time or
Sure.
they go through it, and it's a lot of information for them. But it's very important. You want to know where's your water shut-off valve is at and your main panel, and so all of those are a priority. And it's then also the buyers make a decision if it's really the house that they want to buy. If sometimes it needs way too much work and they're not willing to take over that projects, and sometimes they have to cancel after. But most of the time the clients are happy because also that's one thing that I do a lot with my clients. Is not that I'm acting as a home inspector with them, but
Right.
when I walk through the house, I'm with them and tell them about certain things. and
Yeah.
and I've learned on with doing so many remodel and building new homes that I can point out what's not right sometimes in advance, and I tell them in advance. So when they're in front of you inspecting the property, it's not too much of a surprise on a lot of different things because they've been told by me, well, this you may want. I'm sure the home inspector will point that out.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
and it really helps to kind of schedule them and plan them, not to be like all emotional about little things that are wrong with the house. So
I mean, you certainly you have a high home IQ, and you are, preparing your clients, and that's been one of my forever dreams is to instruct real estate agents, of things that a home inspector might call out, like, hey, take a look at the roof, or take a look at the electrical panel, or take a look at this, and this is going to be a conversation. Do you still want this house? And
right,
then when they say yes to that, then you can get through the home inspection with way less surprises and way less
sure.
emotion, and way more solutions and have a higher close rate. Or if they already know it's not the house for them, if they have to replace the roof and the electrical panel and the AC unit,
Mhm.
well, then move on to the next one. Go show them another house, right? I mean, I know
Right.
it's not that easy. I've never done it before, but shown a house before. But it seems like it's way more useful to move on from that house before getting invested into it with the negotiations and the contracts and the
Absolutely,
inspection.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Big difference, and it's just a matter also of steps as well. So, if they don't know anything about the house and they get there and they get all those things that are wrong with the house,
Yeah.
it's hard to swallow in one pill. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just step by step. They know before going to the home inspector that the roof is old.
Yeah.
It's not a new roof, and then it's not too much of a surprise when they hear from you that the roof needs to be changed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's great. What are some things you don't like? Everybody's favorite question.
Yeah, no, I think overall, there's nothing really that I don't like about home inspector or home
Yeah.
inspections in general. I think
Yeah.
I've never had issues with you guys. You guys
Thank
are
you.
very professional, and um, the most recent was with Ryan that does
Yeah.
a good job with us, and I think it's just a matter of also connecting the clients with the inspector. And
Right one.
so you have a great team around you, great inspectors. So I've always been very happy with that.
Well, we've been fortunate. Thank you. Um, I don't want to take too much of your time. You shared some incredible information. So anybody out there is looking to learn more about short-term rentals and acquisition, they should call you. Anybody out
Sure.
there is looking to buy a house, they should call you, or sell a
Sure.
house, they should call you too. Or if they want ice skating lessons, they should call you as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Where can
Actually, my
people
holiday party this year is going to have an ice skating rink on it.
really?
So, yeah, my holiday party on December 4th going to have a small ice skating rink, and I have like 3 performers that's going to be ice skating there for us.
No
So
kidding.
that's going to be fun.
Where do you put that? And where?
Next to the swimming pool.
Perfect.
It's a small. Yeah, it's a small ice rink. It's like 14 by 16 feet.
How awesome.
And I have some of my friends that are happy to be skating there for 2 hours for us.
What a show. I can't wait to see it. How can people find you if somebody wants to get a hold of you?
On my website, it's sachablanchet.com.
Hmm.
That's my full name, very easy. Sacha, Sacha Blanchet. And you can look me up also on Instagram, Sacha Blanchet Find a Home, and you can look me up as well on Facebook. So, and
Perfect.
if you're not on social media, call me 602-882-4921.
Awesome. And he'll answer. Sacha, thank you so much for your time today. This was fantastic, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you for listening to Just Another Real Estate Podcast. For the latest episodes, please subscribe and be sure to follow Dwell Inspect Arizona on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. To contact Dwell Inspect Arizona, call us at 480-867-4599. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, email our team at office@dwellinspectaz.com.